This means doing something like marketing yourself almost as you are like a product. Hi guys, it's Jay here. I am back without glasses because the reflection was really distracting to me when I looked at the videos afterwards. Besides that fact, I wanted to do a video on how to get a job in data science without any experience and without like a master's or a PhD. Mostly just kind of giving advice about my experience trying to find a job in that similar format. And I think there's a lot of videos like this out there, but I really want to just talk more about the story of how that came to be, how I started from looking for a job in data science at a career fair my senior year, and then 1 year later became the first data scientist on a team of 10 people with 4 engineers, and I was one of them basically doing all the data engineering and data science work. And so how did I get to that point, right? And then how did I actually do data science when it was actually such a small venture-backed startup? And so, yeah, let's start from the very beginning. So, why is it so hard to get a job in data science, right? And this kind of comes from what I didn't know about the field when I was actually a new grad, in that the fact that when I was at this career fair, right, this is the first time I was looking for like a data science job. I had just come off of an internship at Cisco where I worked as an IT engineer intern, which isn't like an IT intern specifically, but just like an engineering intern within the internal divisions org. I can say it any kind of way I want, but I won't make it sound better. But I definitely like try to change it to sound better, right? And I changed it into more of like an analytics internship job. So that was kind of the first thing that I did to try to make myself a little bit more polished for searching for new grad data science jobs, right? But as I was at that career fair and looking around, there honestly wasn't that many data science jobs out there, right, for new grads. And they'd have like these job postings, and I talked to the recruiter, or I talked to engineer, and at the career fair, and they basically say, oh yeah, those are reserved for generally people with a little bit more experience, or like our masters or PhD students that are coming here, but we'd love to consider you for some other role in the future. Or they'd push me to engineering, but then engineering wouldn't see enough experience on my resume, and I wasn't a computer science graduate, right? And so how exactly was it possible to like get a data science job at that point? And I was mainly like losing a lot of hope until I came across one booth at this career fair where I talked to this engineer that initially sounded really excited. He was like, okay, I'll send it over to my friend. He'll take a look at it. And then the friend comes like amazingly from like behind the booth. He comes out, takes a look at my resume, and basically just throws it in the trash right in front of me and goes, you don't have what it takes. You're not qualified. Data scientists all need PhDs at this point. And I was fuming, right? Like, because I'm just a young, like, hothead, post-teen, I don't know, just college graduate and senior. And I just generally couldn't imagine how this guy could be so disrespectful and so flippant about what I wanted to do in terms of career. Like, I had just heard of data science and I thought it'd be really interesting. And so I was arguing with him, and then he brought up this metaphor with a pilot. And so you're saying like, and I was saying, okay, like, don't you think that if there's going to be a lot more openings for data science in the future, that there should definitely be lower requirements instead of just having PhDs come in and become data scientists? And he says, okay, yeah, that might be true, but it's kind of like flying a plane, right? If you're a pilot, you need a certification, and you can't fly a plane without that certification. And for right now, data science certification is getting a PhD. And then he promptly shooed me away, and I was so mad for like the next week. And it was actually probably the bottom of what I might have transitioned careers at that point, given that experience. But I think I held on to the fact that, one, I feel like I knew that this guy internally just wasn't right in his line of thinking, because honestly, why would a data scientist with a PhD be in charge with like a plane with hundreds of lives, right? Like, if a pilot actually fails, then their plane is fucked. But if a data scientist fails, they just get fired, right? So, not as high responsibility bar right there. back to the main point was the fact that I think generally what he was actually getting to, and I think this is what I've learned back in the field now within data science, is that it's really hard to trust new graduates and just generally college graduates with understanding the fundamentals of data science, where they actually have to deploy one, machine learning models, or two, communicate with business teams on telling them effectively how to fix a product, right? And as a new grad, you don't really have those skills. You don't have like the confidence or general like charisma or all this like social networking, office politics to be able to convince business teams that you know what to do. Like you can analyze all this data, you have exactly what you know about the business to like move it forward. A lot of that takes just general experience of working somewhere, right? Unless, but I don't doubt that there are some young people that could do this right now, right? I think the one thing is that it definitely gets a little bit harder on that side for the analytics. And then if you're talking about machine learning models, you're talking about a role that's very specifically geared to, I think, what the guy was talking about with PhDs, right? These are complex fine-tuned algorithms that need to be deployed like in production and run super smoothly. So it's like, have you ever built a model that could scale to thousands and millions of users, right? Needing requests, right? So if you think about the Uber ride request model, how many people are requesting rides on Uber, right? Probably like millions an hour, even minutes possibly. I don't know, probably not. But in general, I'd say that if you don't like, how could you ever figure out how to build that as a new grad, right? You need general experience, and I think that's where data science kind of was back in 2015. Was that they knew that this position was valuable, but they didn't trust it to any new grads, right? And so after that moment, I kind of lost a lot of hope. So if you go back to my story, I lost a lot of hope on generally like becoming a data scientist, but I knew that there was all these data science projects I wanted to do. I still knew it was a passion of mine, right? I was studying electrical engineering at the time, and I really didn't enjoy it, but I found I wasn't actually doing so well or so hot in my major because of the fact that I was spending all my time working on these like data science projects that I like to do. And I felt like innately that it was probably more important to me than actual school at that point, because I've always been like this proponent about getting experience over kind of academia, right? And one of the things that I really believe in is having practical, valuable experience, right? And so I started applying to some different internships, and I started doing some data science projects. And these were generally stuff outside of just class, right? And so I had taken one class on statistics, did a project on predicting like movie box office values based on Dataset, and thought that was really interesting. And then started trying to see if I could get any data on my own. And so that's where I kind of come to point two as a new grad in terms of how you should actually get jobs, is not like think about your resume as so much as to primarily sell yourself as an eagerness to learn and an eagerness to actually work on something, right? And what do I mean by selling yourself? So this kind of stands as something as proving that you can do something out of the gate, and then two, also have an innate curiosity for actual data science. And what I mean by that is like, how do they know that you're interested in data science because of the fact that you actually like the field versus you just want like some sort of high paying job, right? And I think that's where you're kind of seeing this transform in terms of these new jobs coming into the market, right? And where they're very high paying out of, just a master's program or like a bachelor's program. If you're a software engineer or data scientist, you can make over six figures. And that in itself is pretty crazy. And I think it attracts a lot of people that are just in it to, make the money. But also there are a lot of people that are just interested in data science. So I think one of the biggest and the best advice that I think I could tell everyone to do is to basically to stand out in some sort of way, right? And this means doing something like marketing yourself almost as you are like a product. And I'll kind of explain more of that down the line. But essentially, what I did back when I was back in senior year, right, was I was doing these data science projects, and I was doing them because I was actually curious about them, right? So I was doing this project on like MBA data. I was doing this project on real estate. So I was like walking around Seattle one day. I saw a lot of apartment buildings coming up. This was in the start of 2015. I was all like, okay, rent has been increasing. My rent has been increasing by $100 every year. I bet somewhere else, if you weren't just to rent out a room, if you're renting out an actual apartment, it'd be increasing by like $500 per year. Like, why is it going up so much, right? Like, which neighborhoods are the most popular? And so, expecting that I was going to be in Seattle after graduation, I did like a linear regression based on scraped Craigslist data, right? And just posted it. And all it did was it showed every single neighborhood and how much each feature of the neighborhood cost in its base value, right? So if you didn't actually have any rooms or any bathrooms there, how much did location actually cost? And this actually turned out to be like pretty fun. So I posted that, went about my day, and then did another blog post. I got a few views, and I was like, okay, that's cool. And then I did another blog post, and I did one on the Seattle police crime data set, right? And this is a data set that is publicly available, so anyone can analyze it. And I just took it, analyzed it, did some like cool shiny graphs. I made like a prediction model for like how urgent like a call would be, and then posted that. And then that actually ended up getting picked up by GeekWire, and then a Seattle like K2 News or something came and actually on Twitter and just tried to interview me because the chief of police or something tweeted it out or retweeted it, right? And so that was great marketing, right? And after I did that, I actually got a ton more internship offers. Like, people saw that news post and they actually wanted to come and like talk to me, email me. Hiring managers were reaching out. And it was all because I actually got my data science projects in front of an audience, right? Like, anyone right now can do something and like write something on Kaggle, like do like a discussion or like a data science project off of it. They can analyze data, even that's like super hard to get, right? They can scrape data, analyze it, post it somewhere. But if it doesn't actually get any views, then at the same point, it's like it's good because you did it and you learned from it. But at the same time, right, think about how you'd be like doing content marketing for a startup, right? Like, you want stuff to get views so that they'll come back and actually look at your product. In the same way, you want to do blog posts where you actually get some views, and then they come to look at your project, they see your code, they know you can code, and they look at your resume and they're like, wow, this person is actually doing some interesting stuff. And I still think to this day, given all the different kinds of like boot camps you can do, all the different kinds of mentorships you can have, I still think that marketing yourself as a data scientist, using this method of actually showcasing your projects, doing something interesting, having an edge, and posting it online in like a video or like a blog form is still the best way to get a job without any experience. And I think that is the case because of the fact that that is what you have to do to stand out. Nowadays, getting a data science job might just be as hard as it was 5 years ago, given the entire pandemic that's going on right now, and given the fact that lots of companies are tightening up on their hiring for data scientists and software engineers and going only for experienced hires, right? Which means that you have to stand out even more than ever before, right? There are thousands of resumes out there where people are basically having the same kind of experience, they're doing the same kinds of projects, and they're just looking for jobs in the same way, which is applying to the ATS on the company portal, going on LinkedIn, going on Indeed. You can't go through these traditional routes because you're facing with thousands and thousands of other applicants, right? It's kind of like you're competing in this huge lottery system, right? Many times you only get your resume read if it's like only in like the first 100, right? Like, why would a recruiter go through like 10,000 resumes when they could just, figure out if they could get like someone good after like the first 100 or first 200, right? And so because, it's so competitive out there, you really need this edge to stand out. And I still think marketing yourself more than anything is what it takes to stand out, right? After I had released that Seattle Police Department data set, The funny thing was, I actually interviewed for the company that had hosted the dataset. It was this company called Socrata. They did, and they still do actually, government licensed out data for the public. And I think that's what they did back then, but I'm not sure what they do right now. But generally, they just had all these open data sets, right? And it was an easy way for consumers or people that didn't want to file like these requests for data to just get access to this data all the time. And so the Seattle Police data set, I actually interviewed at this company as an intern for like a software engineering internship, got denied after my take-home challenge failed, obviously, because I sucked at coding. And then eventually, after I posted this blog post and it went viral, I saw that they reached out again. They're like, hey, we saw that you applied here, didn't get it. Would you want to come interview again? And so I come back, do a round of interviews, definitely failed again because we didn't get past like even like the first module in my line of code when we looked at my take-home assignment, but then they still offered me the job anyway, right? Because they just knew that I was going to be interested in their projects, and that no matter what, I would at least produce something that was for anything like marketing value, right? And this is a B2B company that probably gets little to no marketing views when they have this open, rich data set, which you could just advertise with almost like open journalism type work, right? And that's actually how I ended up getting an internship for a job that I was originally denied for. And so I think this is literally the key that opens all the doors. I'd advise everyone to try this method out, right? I want to finish my last part of the story, which is on what happened when I actually got to Java, right? And so after I graduated, I ended up getting a job at the startup that kind of went downhill after a few months. I'll go into that later, but I started at Java as kind of like the first data scientist, right? And I was actually kind of confused on why they hired me for this. So I had some prior analytics experience. I got that first Silicon Valley job from my blog post, and they really liked it, and so they hired me for a full-time role. I eventually left that company after 4 months and then went to Java. And so the interesting thing about, I think, Java was that they hired me. I think this is the last key point, is that they hired me for my eagerness, right? And they kind of eagerness to learn and to work on projects. They knew that like no matter what I was tasked with, they could give me like a task and I would happily do it because I wanted to gain experience so badly within data science. And this means the fact that when you have this like kind of eagerness and this hunger to learn, that is literally invaluable because you'll see as you kind of like progress in your career, you definitely get more people that are working on different things, right? They're either learning stuff on management, they're doing people management, or they're a little bit jaded, right? They're just doing their tasks. They know how to do everything. They come in at 9 a.m. and they clock out at 5 p.m., right? And this was a startup that was 8 people. And so eventually when you get at that size, you need to basically work a little bit more just to stay afloat, and because everyone has a piece in the game. Everyone has equity. And I think that, to be frank, I think before they had hired like a machine learning engineer and they had to fire him immediately, right? Because he didn't actually want to work on any engineering aspects of it. He just wanted to do data science and build models. And I think for the kind of eagerness aspect and for the startup aspect, you need to be one, hungry to learn and to do whatever they take and they throw at you, right? And then 2, you also have to be very flexible on what you want to do and your general learning kind of persona, right? And this means being able to take any task and work on it. If they point at it, they say, just do this, then you have to figure out some way to do it. And I think that's kind of like, while it's a little bit easier to phrase and to think about after you get on the job, you still have to embody that before you go on to an interview, right? And you have to embody that for everything because you're there to actually learn. As a new grad, as like a college grad, your primarily focus should always be learning, right? And I think, this goes for later on in life too, but I think generally when you aren't making as much, you need to learn more. And I think that being able to sell how eager you are to learn and just to showcase and do projects talk to people about it, data science, participate in data science communities. All that is helpful. But at the end of the day, it really is just all about marketing yourself and selling yourself, and then embodying that character of being someone who's very, very hungry for data science. And if you can do all those things, you'll definitely be fine, and I think perform pretty well and get a data science job. And I think that is what I want to talk about next, is just how I ended up getting out of data science, right? But still in data science, and starting my own company. And I will talk about that next time. Okay, bye.